Have you ever sat beside someone you love and sensed deep down that something was quietly changing, even if you couldn't quite explain it? Maybe it was the way they moved more slowly, or how their once bright eyes seemed a little more distant. In our later years, the body often speaks in whispers before it lets go. And yet many of us miss these gentle signs until time has already slipped through our hands. The truth is, when the final stage of life approaches, it rarely arrives unannounced. There are often clues, small but meaningful, that begin to show themselves months, even a year in advance. They don't shout, they unfold gradually, and that's why they're so easy to overlook. In this video, we'll gently explore 5 of the most common signs that may indicate an elderly loved one is approaching their final year. Understanding these signs won't make saying goodbye any easier, but it can help you offer deeper comfort, preserve dignity, and be truly present for the moments that matter most. So if you've been wondering whether certain changes are just part of aging or something more, stay with us. This could be the quiet clarity your heart has been waiting for. Number 1, significant weight loss. Sometimes the first sign that something deeper is shifting in an elderly person's health isn't a dramatic event, but a quiet, almost unnoticed change. A belt that suddenly fastens tighter. Favorite clothes that no longer fit the same. A once hearty appetite that begins to fade without reason. For many families, this kind of weight loss is brushed aside, seen as just another part of getting older. But unintentional weight loss is often more than that. It's a gentle whisper from the body signaling that it's beginning to slow down in ways that deserve our attention. When a person loses weight without trying, it's often because their body is no longer processing nutrients like it once did. Digestion becomes less efficient. Muscle tissue begins to shrink. The metabolism slows and energy doesn't circulate the way it used to. This isn't about vanity or appearance. This is about vitality. Muscles give us the power to move, to sit upright, to breathe deeply. And when they fade, so too does our strength, our balance, and our ability to fight off illness. Weight loss can be a quiet companion of muscle loss, and both together are often signs that the body is entering a new chapter 1 that requires tenderness and care, not panic or force. It's not always disease that drives this change, though. Chronic illnesses like cancer, heart failure, or kidney conditions can certainly contribute. More often, it's a natural shift in the way the body responds to life. Even simple things like diminished taste, reduced appetite, or discomfort while eating can add up. Food just doesn't bring the same joy anymore. The smells, the textures, even the act of chewing or swallowing may start to feel like work. And for some older adults, the desire to eat quietly fades. Not because they're giving up, but because their body is quietly preparing for something more inward. Families often respond to this with love, offering favorite meals, high-calorie supplements, or gentle encouragement. And sometimes that helps. But when the weight continues to fall away despite everyone's best efforts, it's time to pause and listen. Because at a certain point, weight loss becomes less about nutrition and more about transition. The body begins conserving its energy, choosing to focus not on repair, but on rest. It's not always easy to see, especially when we so badly want to help. But the goal is no longer just to restore appetite. It's to preserve comfort, to honor dignity, and to walk gently alongside someone who may be quietly letting go of the old rhythms. In this moment, we can shift our focus. Instead of insisting on full plates and strict meal times, we can begin asking, what would bring ease today? Maybe it's a favorite soft fruit, a warm broth, a sip of something familiar. Hydration, gentle nourishment, and emotional presence become the greatest gifts we can offer. We're not trying to reverse time. We're simply walking with love through it. If you've noticed an elderly parent, grandparent, or spouse beginning to lose weight, don't rush into worry, but do lean in with care. Take note of their habits, their energy, their relationship with food. Gently involve their doctor. Speak kindly about what you're noticing, and above all, offer them what matters most in this season: your patience, your respect, and your willingness to see them, not through the lens of what's fading, but through the grace of what remains. Because significant weight loss in the final year of life isn't just a symptom. It's a message, subtle but deeply meaningful. And when we choose to hear it with open hearts, we allow space for something sacred to unfold. Not fear, not loss, but presence, connection. and the quiet honoring of a journey nearing its close. Number 2, extreme fatigue and weakness. There comes a point in life's later chapters when energy begins to feel different. Not the everyday tiredness that comes after a busy morning or a long afternoon walk, but a deeper, more persistent kind of fatigue. It's the kind that lingers even after a full night's sleep, the kind that turns once simple tasks into quiet mountains. Getting dressed, making breakfast, or even rising from bed in the morning begins to feel like too much. For many elderly individuals approaching their final year, this isn't just about getting older. It's a signal, a gentle but powerful one, that the body is shifting into a new phase of life. This profound weakness doesn't come all at once. It builds slowly like a soft dimming of the lights. A walk to the mailbox becomes a seated pause halfway down the driveway. A favorite book sits unopened because holding it feels tiring. These aren't signs of laziness or disinterest. They're signs that the body is trying to preserve what little energy it has left. As organs begin to slow and circulation becomes less efficient, oxygen doesn't reach muscles with the same ease. The heart works a little harder to do a little less, and in response, the entire body says rest. It's not unusual for someone in this stage to start sleeping more longer naps earlier, bedtimes quieter afternoons. This isn't because they've lost their zest for life. On the contrary, many still deeply want to engage, but their energy, once plentiful and shared with everyone, has now become something they must guard. They may seem fine one moment laughing at a family story, then suddenly need to close their eyes and rest. These fluctuations can be disorienting for those watching from the outside, but for the person experiencing it, they are simply trying to listen to their body's new rhythm. And yet perhaps the most tender part of this change is the emotional toll it takes. So many elders have spent their entire lives being the strong ones, the caregivers, the problem solvers, the anchors of their families. To suddenly feel weak, to need help brushing hair or tying shoes can feel like a loss of identity. It's not just physical, it's deeply personal. Many withdraw not because they've lost interest in life, but because they fear becoming a burden or because they grieve the quiet fading of their independence. That's why your presence matters more than ever. Not your push to keep them moving, not your reminders to stay active, but your gentle understanding. The way you sit beside them without expecting conversation. The way you honor their need to rest without questioning their will. These moments don't call for correction. They call for compassion. If someone you love is showing signs of deep ongoing exhaustion, if their spark seems dimmer, their strength fading, try not to rush in with solutions. Instead, lean in with empathy. Ask them what brings them peace. Offer them small comforts. A favorite blanket, soft music, a warm hand to hold. Fatigue at this stage is not something to fight. It is something to walk alongside with grace and patience. This is the time for soft mornings and quiet afternoons. For holding space, not making plans. For celebrating what they can still enjoy. Perhaps a sunset from the porch, a few spoonfuls of their favorite dessert, a story shared between naps. Because in these final months or weeks, it's not about what they can still do. It's about how fully they are still loved and how gently they are allowed to be. And if you're going through this yourself, if your body feels heavier than before, if rest calls you more often than it used to, please know this: you are not failing. You are not giving up. You are simply entering a season that asks for more softness and less striving. Honor it. Let your body lead, and allow yourself to receive the care you so freely gave to others for so many years. You are still whole. You are still worthy, and you are still deeply valued. Number 3, increased cognitive confusion or withdrawal. In life's final seasons, the mind often begins to whisper in softer tones. For someone who has lived with clarity and engagement for decades, subtle shifts in thinking, memory, or connection can feel unsettling for them and for those who love them. You might begin to notice that someone who once never missed a detail is now repeating stories, forgetting familiar names, or asking what day it is more often. They may trail off mid-conversation or lose track of where they were going with a thought. At first, it might seem like simple forgetfulness, but over time, these moments grow more frequent, more noticeable, more lasting. This change isn't always the result of disease or trauma. It can be part of the natural winding down of the body, because the brain, like every organ, depends on a healthy flow of oxygen and nutrients. As circulation slows and the body begins to conserve energy, the brain's clarity can fade gently like the last light of a sunset. It's not about losing intelligence, it's about the mind choosing quiet over complexity, stillness over stimulation. Moments of sharpness may still appear, sometimes unexpectedly like a clear sky between passing clouds. But they come and go, and that's okay. Equally important is the emotional withdrawal that often accompanies cognitive decline. Someone nearing the end of their journey might begin to pull inward, not out of coldness, but from a place of inner retreat. They may speak less, respond less, or quietly observe without fully engaging. Hobbies that once brought joy now seem too demanding. Visits from family and friends feel overwhelming, not because of lack of love, but because the mind no longer processes social interaction with the same ease. Loud noises, too many faces, or long conversations become more tiring than comforting. Silence becomes their chosen companion, and solitude their place of peace. These changes in behavior, forgetting birthdays, no longer reacting to favorite stories, seeming distant or emotionally detached, can be painful to witness. It's natural for family members to want to bring them back, to reconnect them with the world, to stir them out of what feels like disinterest. But this isn't something that needs fixing. What your loved one is going through isn't about giving up. It's about letting go in a gentle, gradual way. Sometimes confusion is paired with mood changes. Some elders may seem more easily frustrated, while others become unusually calm or even indifferent. These shifts aren't signs of a fading spirit. Rather, they're reflections of how the brain is adapting to the body's slowing pace. Emotions don't vanish, they just become quieter, harder to express. It's not that your loved one doesn't care. It's simply that the pathways for showing it have changed. In this stage, the greatest gift you can give is not correction, but comfort. Speak softly, even if they don't always answer. Sit close, even if they no longer reach out. Your presence, your tone, your calmness, they all matter more than the words themselves. Even when memory falters and recognition fades, the feeling of love often lingers like music. They can still hear long after the song ends. If someone close to you seems to be retreating into their own world, becoming more forgetful, more withdrawn, less responsive, pause, breathe, and recognize it for what it might be: the mind preparing gently and quietly for rest. This is a time not for worry, but for deep compassion. It's a time to slow down together, to honor the person they've always been, and to let them feel above all else that they are safe, seen, and cherished. Because even as conversations grow shorter and memories slip away, there's still so much meaning in a held hand, a soft song, or a moment of shared stillness. And in those quiet spaces where words may fail, love continues to speak loud and clear. Number 4, frequent infections and slow healing. As we walk gently into the later stages of life, the body begins to speak in quieter ways. Not through loud alarms, but through the steady presence of things that once came and went easily. Like a cold that lingers, a cut that takes weeks to heal, or a small infection that seems to return again and again. These aren't just random setbacks. They are often subtle signs that the body's once mighty immune system is growing tired, choosing rest over resistance, and asking for a new kind of care, one rooted more in comfort than in cure. You might notice a loved one who used to bounce back quickly now, needing longer stretches of rest after a mild illness. A simple scratch might take weeks instead of days to fade. A winter bug that others shake off in a weekend could turn into a lingering cough or chest discomfort. These changes aren't failures. They're part of the body's natural rhythm as it begins to slow. The immune system, which once leapt into action at every threat, becomes more cautious, more measured. It's not giving up. It's simply growing quieter. One of the clearest signs of this shift is the frequency of infections. Pneumonia, urinary tract infections, skin conditions, or even gum and mouth infections may begin to appear more regularly. While these may look like isolated events, a pattern of recurrence is often the body's quiet way of saying, "I don't heal like I used to." And when infections do come, they don't always show up in ways we expect. For older adults, a fever might never appear. Instead, there's a subtle drop in energy, a new kind of fatigue, or a sudden change in alertness or appetite. Confusion, especially when it arrives, suddenly can often be the first and sometimes the only sign of something deeper going on. And then there are wounds. A bruise that fades slowly, a small sore that doesn't close, skin that becomes more fragile, more prone to tears and irritation. Poor circulation plays a quiet role here, limiting how much oxygen and nourishment reaches the skin and tissues. For those who are less mobile, pressure sores become a real concern, and they don't just bring physical discomfort. If left untreated, they can open the door to more serious infections that challenge an already fragile system. These experiences can be difficult, not just for the person going through them, but for their family. Watching someone you love struggle to heal, return to the hospital, or undergo treatment after treatment is deeply emotional. It's natural to want to fight, to say, let's try one more antibiotic, one more test, one more round. But sometimes, especially in the final stages of life, healing doesn't mean fixing. It means softening. It means shifting from fighting the illness to embracing the person. At this stage, the best medicine is often not found in a prescription bottle. It's found in quiet moments, a gentle hand helping with bathing, a cool cloth on the forehead, a sip of water offered with love. It's in keeping the skin moisturized, the body clean, the room peaceful. It's in offering small comforts instead of chasing big recoveries. Because when the immune system slows down, what it needs most is not more strain, but more support. If someone you care about is experiencing more frequent infections or healing more slowly than before, it may be their body's way of asking for a change in approach, not out of defeat, but out of a desire for ease. Instead of asking, what else can we do? Perhaps the better question becomes, how can we make this moment better for them right now? And if this feels familiar, if you've been seeing these changes in someone close, know that you're not alone. These are quiet, universal signs of a body preparing to rest, and your presence, your gentleness, your understanding. These are the true gifts that make this time meaningful. In the end, it's not the number of treatments that matter. It's the feeling of safety, the warmth of being cared for, the dignity of being seen not as a patient, but as a person who is still deeply loved. Number 5. Major changes in breathing or circulation. In the later stages of life, the body speaks in subtle, tender ways, and one of the most profound messages it sends comes through the rhythm of breath and the quiet pulse of circulation. These changes, though sometimes gentle and barely noticeable at first, often reveal that the body is beginning to shift into a new and final chapter 1 that calls for care, understanding, and a softer kind of presence. You may notice that someone who once breathed with ease now begins to take slower, shallower breaths. At times, their breathing may pause for a few seconds, only to resume with a sudden gasp or a quicker rhythm, then slow again. This pattern, often referred to as Cheney-Stokes respiration, is one of the body's natural signals that things are changing. It can feel unsettling to witness, especially when the person you love seems peaceful one moment and breathless the next. But rather than something to fear, this is often the body's way of gently winding down, of using only the energy it truly needs. Circulation, too, begins to follow a similar rhythm of conservation. You might notice that their hands, feet, ears, or even the tip of their nose begin to feel cool to the touch. Their skin might take on a pale or bluish hue, especially at the extremities. These signs don't necessarily mean something is wrong. They're simply the result of the body focusing its limited resources on the vital organs, allowing the less essential areas to quietly fade into stillness. It's a shift from activity to protection, from striving to stillness. Shortness of breath becomes more common as well. Tasks that were once effortless, sitting up in bed, changing position, speaking a few sentences, can suddenly leave them winded. You may see them breathing through their mouth more often or stopping mid-sentence to catch their breath. If they once walked across the room with ease but now pause halfway, it's not laziness or weakness. It's simply that the lungs and heart are working within new limits, and the body is asking for compassion, not correction. Sometimes fluid can begin to collect in the lungs, making breathing feel heavy or causing a soft, wet-sounding cough. There may be a gurgling in the chest or a sense of pressure that makes lying flat uncomfortable. Don't be surprised if they begin to prefer sleeping propped up on pillows or in a recliner chair. This isn't just about comfort. It's the body seeking the position that allows for the easiest breath with the least effort. For families and caregivers, witnessing these changes can be frightening. It's instinctual to want to intervene, to urge deeper breaths, to call for immediate help, to feel a rising panic in the silence between inhalations. But in many cases, these changes aren't emergencies. They are the body's quiet surrender, its return to calm. The most loving response in these moments is not urgency, but presence. A cool room, a soft blanket, a humidifier, a sip of water offered gently. These small acts of care can bring more comfort than any medication ever could. And yes, sometimes medications or oxygen support may be recommended to ease discomfort. But the focus often shifts from trying to fix what's happening to simply allowing peace to settle in. It becomes less about fighting for more breaths and more about making each one feel as effortless and soothing as possible. If you notice that a loved one is breathing differently, struggling to move air, or showing signs of cold skin and a bluish tint, try not to respond with fear. Instead, respond with love. Sit beside them. Hold their hand. Let your calm presence be the thing they feel most deeply. These are often signs that the body is conserving its final energy, and it's in those moments that your warmth and gentleness matter most. This is not a time for panic. It's a time for peace, for creating an environment where they feel safe, heard, and held, where the noise of the world fades and only the quiet pulse of love remains. Even as breath becomes light and circulation slows, the spirit still listens. And what it needs most is not more effort, but more tenderness. In these final months or weeks, what our loved ones need most isn't more tests or treatments. It's our presence, our gentleness, the quiet reassurance that they are not alone. As we close this video, take a moment to reflect on the 5 signs we've explored: unexplained weight loss, deep fatigue, fading clarity, frequent illness, and changes in breath and circulation. These signs don't mean we give up hope. They simply invite us to listen more closely to what the body's trying to say. When we understand these gentle messages, we can shift our energy, not toward fixing, but toward honoring. This chapter isn't about control. It's about connection. It's about slowing down, holding hands a little longer, and finding meaning in the simplest of moments. For many families, this path is filled with emotion, but you're not walking it alone. And with a little insight and a lot of heart, you can make this time as peaceful and dignified as it deserves to be. If this video brought you clarity or comfort, please take a moment to comment below with "just still with you." We read every word, and your presence here matters deeply. And if you'd like to keep walking this journey with us, consider subscribing. We'll continue sharing stories, signs, and soft reminders to help you care with love, presence, and grace. Until next time, may you find strength and tenderness and courage in every quiet goodbye.